How would you like to make your first million? And today we have Mike join us from Chicago. So Mike, tell us, what are the 5 steps that you recommend tech entrepreneurs to make the first million?
Welcome to Unstoppable Podcast with Harry Sardinas, inspiring conversations with influential millionaires, investors, thought leaders, entrepreneurs who are making a massive difference with their innovative products and services, and sharing the challenges and wisdom of how they sold their first million.
Well, the 5 steps that I recommend is first, you need to identify a problem. So you have to identify a gap in the marketplace or a problem that exists. And you have to be somewhat passionate about solving that problem. The second step is you need to validate your idea to solve that problem. And so by validating, you need to identify who the potential customer is in the product or service that you develop to solve that problem. The third step is you'll need to identify the resources that you need to build that product or service that's going to solve that problem. The fourth step is you're going to need to identify the type of capital, team, or structure in place that you're going to be needed to, get the resources to solve or to build that product or service. And the last thing you're going to need to do is execute your plan and sell your product. And so that's how I sort of break it down to the 5 basic steps towards, making your first million.
Wow, Mike, that's very impressive. So tell us a little bit more. Why you decide to become a venture partner in this company?
So the path for me becoming a managing partner and starting a venture capital firm has sort of been in the making. I've been a part of the ecosystem for a very long time, being in corporate America, and then starting my own businesses from scratch, having exits, being an angel investor, investing in funds, and being an advisor.
Wow.
And we sort of identified a huge opportunity in the marketplace in terms of where venture capital is going. And, the VC firm of the future, we think, is going to look a lot different than today. Entrepreneurs.
I agree with you.
And so
it's a big challenge.
Yeah, exactly. And the whole day and age of companies that are being started in remote workplaces, they're being founded utilizing incredible new technology that's moving faster than people can imagine, is going to require a VC fund to be set up structurally differently, but also think differently if you're looking to get your hands on the best opportunities in the marketplace. And so we've kind of followed the 5 steps of what I think is identifying a problem. And our problem is we felt that there were a number of VC firms that weren't structured properly for what we see, coming down the road for the next decade or two.
The truth is that it's very difficult for startups out there to find funding. It's a huge problem because you see, I have a lot of founders in the tech space to grow the business. I give them some tips, I give them advice, and they're talking to me and say, Harry, they never happy this VC. When they say the product, then you have to have some traction. Then what is your team? Then so the VC, they always asking more and more and more.
Yeah.
So they say they always want something. On the other hand, is the side of the venture capitalists that most of them are like you. They are former business owners. And people think that the investors are stupid. And they are not. The reason that they are investors and venture capitalists is because somehow they have experience growing businesses, scaling businesses, exiting businesses, and they understand very well what is a business that has potential and what business doesn't have potential. Not even a business, sometimes it's the entrepreneur, right? I've been in several meetings where the founder pitched his idea, and the venture capitalists are telling them, look, call me in your next idea. And the founder is calling to me and said, what this guy is trying to tell me, Harry, I need the money now for my project. Why he's telling me, call me in your next idea? So, and the truth is what the venture capitalist is telling them, look, you have a good product, you have a good idea, but you're not an entrepreneur yet. you're not investable yet because the way that you think that you want to grow this company, it doesn't match reality. It doesn't match how this process really,
That's
really works. So tell us, Mike, how can we fill the gap between founders and venture capitalists? Because the truth is there are a lot of projects out there um, that could have some potential. But the main issue, I think, is the founders and the team. They never grow £1 million business, $1 million business. So of course the idea, they're very product focused, right? But this is the case all the time. They decide software company or software developer. They design software. They think that this technology is going to change the world. They put all the money of their friends, the family. They remortgage the house. They put all the money in that product, in that software, and then after they finish all the money, now they don't have not even $1 to show it to the market, to see the market wants to buy this on the first place. And now they are stuck with a big elephant and with no funds. And now they come to Mike to ask them for funding for sales and marketing. So what you do with this type of founder, Mike? Because that's
well,
the
there's
problem. If you can help these people, you can help 90% of the
right.
startup community. Because that's what happened to a lot of people.
Yeah, well, it's a big question to unpack. So let me start with the first part of it is truthfully, the gap's never going to be filled. And the reason why is that it's a lot easier to start a business than it is to exit a business. And so
100%.
it just takes an idea and some capital. And then in today's day and age, as you look at technology and especially in AI, the cost to start some of these companies is actually being reduced significantly. And so you're going to see more ideas out in the marketplace. That's just what's going to happen as technology is going to even evolve. And so that does make it very difficult because there's all these ideas, there's going to be more failures. And so it's up, venture capitalists and early stage investors. I mean, that's the challenge, right? Is how do you get your hands on the best ideas? And it's not easy. And so it's a whole process of understanding and you learning through experience of what it's not only a great idea, but it's who the entrepreneur, who's the team.
100%,
and really
Mike.
From an entrepreneur perspective, just what you said before is anybody can start with an idea, think they're trying to solve a problem. But really the old adage is it really starts with the customer. So you have to, too many people, and this has happened over the course of time, you see this happen frequently. And if you read up on some of the best business minds, they'll always tell you, and you'll see their stories of how they've learned from some of their failures and then eventually figured out that in order to build their product or service, they have to start from the customer and work backwards. Too many people get excited about building something. They think they're solving a problem, but they're building something that resonates with maybe them and a couple of people. You need to build something that resonates with customers. And so that requires identifying the problem, listening to the customer, understanding what the solution might look like, and then working backwards and building that product or service. It's very easy to say, but it's hard to do. And so that's the one thing that you look for in some of these entrepreneurs that are building things. Because like I said, if someone gets their hold on a little capital, they have an idea, it is easy to start something in today's day and age. You can start things online, new AI technologies. There's so many businesses that you're able to start. You might be able to show a little bit of traction. And so what you alluded to earlier is that our whole investment philosophy actually is investing in repeat entrepreneurs. So my philosophy is I love advising first-time entrepreneurs.
Great philosophy.
We love investing in repeat entrepreneurs. And no disrespect to some of the first-time entrepreneurs that are out there, because I've been there before. But you need to really go through that process first of starting a company, building a product or service, and understanding how that all works, how you bring in investors, how you structure a cap table, how you sell your product, because the training wheels have been dusted off once you're a first-time founder. And what you're going to do when you find your second company and your third company, you're going to take a much more calculated approach. You're going to know exactly what you need to do. You're going to build your company in a different way. You're going to bring on different people. You're going to give less equity to your marketing person. There's so many little things that first-time entrepreneurs do that may adversely affect their investors or minimize the potential for return. And so that's very important. it's very hard for a first-time entrepreneur to know all this stuff when they're getting into the first time. It really takes someone to have a really strong mentor, coach, or family member that has been through it before, that's right by their side. And so that's what really makes it more difficult. But, I don't know if the gap will ever be filled. It's really about, trying to find the best ideas that are out there. But the idea is just the first thing that starts, right? It's who's the team, what's the market size. There's so much more to these ideas. And in today's day and age, it's even tougher to get funded, right? While there's ample capital out in the marketplace, there's just too many ideas, right? And there's just so much supply in the marketplace. And so it's more than developing technology. You have to know how to brand yourself, market yourself, network yourself. It's all about relationships. And also, we live in a day and age which is very interesting right now because technology is a force to be reckoned with. It's moving at a speed that nobody can comprehend. And the amount of emails, communication, social media, WhatsApp, we're just constantly bombarded with information from so many different channels on a daily basis. It really is information overload. And most people don't see that stopping anytime soon. And so if you look back from a founder perspective on what you can do to make yourself stand out, it's really creating genuine relationships. It's almost going back to the old school playback of creating, personal relationships. Your personal network is more important than ever in today's day and age. And so how do you tap those resources? And when you do build strong personal networks, what's important for some of these entrepreneurs, especially when they're starting out early, is a lot of them, most people are scared to ask for help. And I think that's a huge mistake because not asking for help early on can be detrimental to your idea and or potential business. And so finding people that are close to you or people that are close to you that may know someone that has some experience in the product or service that you're building, people love to help each other out when they're asked. And so I think that's a huge area of opportunity in the early stages from someone to get out there and not be scared to ask for help, because that can really help prevent a lot of mistakes that can happen down the road. And so I know it was a loaded question, but those are just a couple of observations that I've seen, and some advice on how people can go about really vetting and building their product or service so that they have a greater chance of success.
Good VCs, they are always have been former entrepreneurs. This is, and I want to ask you because I see that says restaurateur. So do you have a restaurant before?
I've started three restaurants from scratch.
I had one, I lost 200,000. So I always say that to the restaurant owners that make it profitable, I say, man, if you're making money with this restaurant, you should do other business. Because one of the more complex operations that I even seen in my life is the restaurant business.
That's right.
I had one, so I speak of my own experience, and I took a big hit. So you really need to love food, really, really, really need to like food, but also you need to have a very deep understanding of business in order to run a successful and profitable restaurant, because it has a lot of challenges. The operation is really complex. You have food costs, you have food waste, you have a staff, team, customer experience, marketing, the people eating is a low ticket. Hey, my first business was a property business. We managed to sell over 5 million. And imagine you rent a room. I rent a room once for 800 pounds a month, and the tenant stayed there 12 years. So I found the client one time and he was paying me that amount monthly. That had nothing to do with the restaurant. When I saw a restaurant that somebody paid 40, 50, 80, and that's it, and it come back 6 months, I'm saying, what's happening? How are you going to find all these new clients? So the operation is really complex, Mike, but I never regret this restaurant experience. The truth was that I lost 200,000 pounds and 2 years of my life. I was there literally Monday to Sunday, trying to make this thing work. but I never regret it because it was the best master in business administration, the best MBA that I can ever have in my life. Because in that restaurant, there was what I learned
Yeah,
about business. It was not in the property that was making a lot of money and the operation was going flawless. I don't even to look after this. It was going autopilot actually. That's why I had time to do the restaurant. But that restaurant, that thing taught me big lesson about business. So, Mike, and then people come to you with a piece of paper with an startup. Mike, give me 2 million. I'm gonna make this business after you starting a restaurant and make it work from scratch. So, what do you think? What can we do? Shall we send the founders to start their own restaurant first? I think that this is a good idea. At least a small food truck, yeah. They have some idea how actually business works. So when they come and they have their own business, they understand
that's right.
how actually things work. So what do you think? Because that's the other thing, Mike. People take a lot of money, they're gonna study an MBA. I always tell everybody that want to spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars or whatever in an MBA. I said, listen, do you really want to learn about business? Open a restaurant.
That's right. I
Exactly. When
agree with
when
you.
I landed in Brick Lane in London, I opened my restaurant in a food chain in Brick Lane, which is one restaurant after the other one after the other one. I landed there without realizing that everybody in the road have more than 20 years of experience. And there I was opening my new restaurant thinking that I can compete with these big boys that obviously everybody there knew
Yeah.
what they were doing. And I was just a newbie in the road. So, Mike, what is your view? Because you told me, Harry, the gap is never going to be closed. But I think that is never going to be closed because we need founders to be entrepreneurs, and that's the only way that they can become investable. Do you think that any something like an incubator or in a way that we can turn these founders and real entrepreneur, maybe exactly like you said, with other business, something that is a pilot, a small food truck, a small restaurant, a small corner shop, something that doesn't cost too much, and put that founder there at least 3 6 months to deal with the food costs, with the marketing, with that. So when they're running their own company, they have actually an idea. Do you think that that could be one solution?
Well, some of those exist right now, and I agree with you that
Really?
starting
Oh wow,
starting
that's a great idea.
yeah,
Who has this idea? That's good.
starting and running restaurants is the best MBA you can get. But you
Absolutely.
know, it, it's hard. Founders come in different shapes and sizes, right? And there's many great founders that come from they come from a company, right? Where they're an
I agree
operator
with you.
and they have domain expertise and they're frustrated with how something's done, right?
Well, they
And
come in same like you because you also came from corporate, Mike. Yeah,
right.
you came from corporate. Now you
But,
started your own
but
business, but your first problem that you realize is that in your own business you cannot tell anybody this is not my job. You find out that everything was your job, right?
right. So it's very hard. So it just what it really requires from entrepreneurs is patience. And everyone's impatient. They want to work for themselves. They want to act on an idea, but you really have to let these ideas materialize. And the idea that companies and our ideas fail because the idea that you may act on might not be the right one that resonate with the marketplace. Now, that doesn't mean you can't try again and succeed. We've seen people do that over and over, but it's really the strongest entrepreneurs aren't creating the idea and acting on it rapidly. They really have to take time to understand, like I said, work backwards to the customer and figure out like how good this idea is. Can I build a product or service, team experience? And it's okay if a founder has, a great idea, it's a great market, they're solving a problem, they understand the customer. The biggest thing about an entrepreneur that we look for is somebody needs to understand, they need to one, know themselves really well and understand what are their strengths and weaknesses. And the real key is when starting a company is how do I offset my weaknesses with strengths? And that involves bringing in partners and or other people, advisors that can help you. Because if you're going to be going out there at this alone and you're going to have more weaknesses than strengths, that's going to be a problem as you try to evolve. And so self-reflection is very important for some of these founders, having humility as well. And, you live in this day and age where, you hear Elon Musk talk about they'll be the first trillionaire solopreneur.
Wow.
And some of these things can happen, yes. But
Yeah,
in
but they're
reality,
very rare.
rare. And
Yeah.
listen, investing is the ultimate team sport, and starting companies is the ultimate team sport as well. As you get bigger, more people come into the fold. You have to know how to work together. You have to be organized for success. And so that really, all that starts from the founder and the team right from the beginning. And that's how culture is built, right? So you're building culture from the beginning, but it's really a point of that founder having the vision to understand like where this thing may go and how can I bring in the right people to help execute this vision. Because eventually if you're going to look to scale, and there need to surround yourself with a team that can really help assist you here, because it's very hard to do it alone. Sure, there's
Yeah.
some rare instances of that happening, but that's not the norm.
Tech is different. This is something that I always hear, Mike, when I started to advise tech companies. Yeah, they told me, no, 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 no. Think that tech is other businesses, but let me tell you something, Harry. Tech is different, and I think that the more and more I know about tech, the more is more similar to a traditional business. I don't know. Every time that the only thing that is different is the valuation. Yeah, tech business have a
Yep.
large evaluation, that's for sure. That's why in this podcast on a stop of 5 step how to make your first million, 1 out of 5, 1 out of 6 entrepreneurs that we interviewed, they're tech multimillionaires. Now everybody listening to the show, they say, okay, if 5 or 6 people at our interview, they are tech entrepreneurs and they are millionaires, it be easy become a millionaire in tech, and we don't want to send the wrong message out there. So Mike can share with you guys how actually what it's gonna take to exit and become
Well,
a millionaire in tech, because you only hear the story of the people that succeed. Nobody never talks about the lot of people that fail. We
well,
don't want to
that's right.
disencourage anyone, but tech is something that it has is their own life. However, I think, or my opinion, yeah, the more I see tech nowadays in this DNA, like Mike said, the more I see the similarity of tech with the traditional business, because this is not like before that you write a piece of paper and a VC is going to give you a million. Now, if you don't have sales, if you don't have traction, if you don't have some track record, the VC is not going to give you money. That is my opinion. But and now the flavor of the day is AI. So now everybody put AI. I'm thinking that gonna encourage the VCs. On the other hand, Mike, the VCs, some of them have been misled because they hear this sound, AI, this and that. They say, oh, this is the new unicorn. And they invest without doing the proper due diligence and without seeing actually what business can produce. And they say, well, I invest in tests like this, in 10 like that. It doesn't matter. 9 of them will fail. 8 of them will fail. One will break even. But those ones that make it, it will make for the rest of them. And so, Mike, is it how tech is really different of a traditional business? Because I hear that a lot. That when I say to guys, no, you have this software, but you have to make this product market fit. Ask your clients if they want to buy. If they don't want to buy, ask your client what kind of form they want the product, what type of business model you're gonna have. Keep the communication with your client. Don't do what you want. Don't do what you think. Do listen to the clients, which is something that you need to do in traditional business, otherwise you never succeed.
Yep.
And so, Mike, in your restaurant, do you sell the food that you like, or you sell the food that the customer want? I remember that I have octopus. I in a Spanish tapa, and I was selling octopus, and nobody was ordering this thing. The octopus costed me a lot of money, so I removed that thing from the menu. We had to listen to the client. So,
Right.
how different is tech from the traditional business?
Like I said, with our restaurants, we start from the customer. And if the customer doesn't like a particular product, we need to change it. And so all businesses are the similar from that aspect. There's just different specialties that go into each business, right? Manufacturing deals with equipment and a higher degree of specialty and skill set, and technology, very different in restaurants. So it boils down to obviously experience and different skill sets and different types of equipment. obviously what makes tech so attractive is it's scalable, right? So once you create technology in a product, and then you have a real,
And that's the
product
reason why
market
we have
fit,
so many
and
millionaires
that's
in tech.
obviously works a lot better to scale. Listen, it's a lot easier to scale a technology product if you have the right sales team to go out and find new customers
Hmm.
than it is to scale a fine dining restaurant. I mean, that's
Hmm.
much more
Oh my
difficult
God.
in terms of the staff that you need to
Yeah,
have. So that's really the main point of, all businesses are started around the same foundation and require a very similar skill set in how you start a business, but the operations of the business are very different, and then the scalability becomes very different, and then also the profit margins are a lot different. Obviously, once you develop technology, the profit margins can be quite attractive, and so obviously you see higher valuations in that space. But to answer your question, yes, in order to start businesses, no matter what sector you're in, it does, there's a lot of similarities that go into it. The business and the economics just look um, a little different across each sectors, but it's, like I say, it's very good for entrepreneurs. And as entrepreneurs, the challenge is they only know one thing, and so they've just been in one space, and their mind's sort of conditioned to how things operate in this one space. And so some of the best advice I give to these young entrepreneurs is go out there and try new things, figure out what you like and you don't like, and the your path may take some different shapes and turns, but at the end of the day you can figure out what you don't like and what you like, and that really will give you a little bit more peace in mind, and choose to maybe develop your business or solve your problem. But that's not easy to do. Nobody wants to be in a job that they don't like. And as technology is rapidly advancing and making all these headlines, you see the younger generation where everyone's growing up with, smartphones, TikTok, now AI. And so the whole world's just being conditioned to being in love with technology. And so that's going to create some challenges in other spaces. I mean, my partner's a CPA and an accountant. And if you look at the statistics on, I don't know the exact numbers, but there was a staggering statistic that showed how the world will be short a significant number of accountants in the next 5 or 6 years, because that younger generation growing up, accounting is not attractive to them. Some of these professions just aren't as attractive, and everyone's so enthralled with technology. And so now on the flip side, that's going to create opportunity, right? So it's going to create opportunity for people in some of those spaces. So, the advice we give to a lot of entrepreneurs is be open-minded when you're young, try new things. And that was one of the best things that I did. And I didn't do it by design, but I had the luxury of being in a lot of different sectors. And some of the jobs I had, I just, at the time, it was something that I really didn't like as much, but going through those motions and having those experiences when I look back upon was probably the best thing that I did, because it just gave me such a unique perspective. And so, again, easy to say, but hard to do.
Yeah. So, Mike, so what advice do you have for people in corporate that want to become an entrepreneur? Because in corporate, you have very comfortable life. They pay you good salary. You don't have to worry about Saturday and Sunday. You're off. You go 9 to 5 and that's it.
Yeah.
And then you can buy a car. You can buy the house. You have good money. So seems very comfortable. And you have the luxury to tell the people, no, this is not my job. My job is only this one. This is not my job. And opposite to, because I think that a lot of people that listen this broadcast, they feel like they are trapped in a golden cage. They are pretending that everything is fine. They having this huge house and have this nice car, and they're smiling and everything looks amazing from outside. But in the end, they're terrified that one day they arrive to this place and tell them you fired, and now they don't know what to do. They don't have any skill apart from that.
That's
They
right.
they have a very specific knowledge in something, which is, and when you got a certain age, it becomes everything more difficult. But people don't find this courage. People don't find this strength to say, you know what, I'm gonna go for it, and I'm gonna build my own company, and I'm going to create my own job. So nobody can ever fire me because I can create my own economy, my own finance. So I don't depend on anyone. And like this, you finally feel free. I don't know. A lot of people, it's being an entrepreneur is not for everybody,
That's right.
but honestly, when it works, it's amazing, Mike. It's the most amazing life you can have. You can define in your terms, when you're gonna work, what kind of business. For example, myself, I only talk with people that I like, and I only have clients that I like, and I'm spend most of my time speaking with multimillionaires like you because of this podcast and for few things that I do. So you can design an amazing life for yourself if you want. Look at you, you're passionate about business, so you spend all the time with founders to see if you can make the business work, and you design even because I think one of the more horrible things is to work with someone that you don't like, yeah, and you need to see again and again and again. I don't know. That's my view. So, what do you think? It worth it? Because I know that building your restaurant from scratch, you so many times. Am I doing the right thing? Was not a good idea. How many times do you think to quit?
Well, look, to what you said before about, people in corporate America or in a
Mm.
company and having a stable job and be in their comfort zone, there's a place for that. And what most people don't realize is the grass isn't greener on the other side. Entrepreneurship's hard. And it, you know, most people don't realize that how hard entrepreneurship is until they get into it.
Oh
And a
yeah.
lot of successful entrepreneurs that have had great success have repeatedly said that if they would go back in time, they wouldn't have done it if they knew how hard it was. And that's of many entrepreneurs. And I can tell you that from experience. But you have to have so much passion around the problem that you're trying to solve, is that most rational people will give up. And so you have to be irrational to the point where you're not going to give up. Now, obviously, if there's catastrophic things that happen and you realize that this product is not the right time and place, there's a point where you have to realize like this isn't going to work. But um, it's easy. It's not for the faint of heart. And so people have to understand, like, are you doing this for a lifestyle reason, or are you doing it because you're
Hmm.
passionate about solving a problem where you think you can build a product or service that's going to resonate with a huge market of customers? And I think the people that are jumping into entrepreneurship for just lifestyle, I think those are the ones that have it wrong and are the ones that are going to struggle because let's face the facts. For most of your time in entrepreneurship, it's a very difficult lifestyle. I mean, if you have kids, you're raising a family, I'm sure you can set your own hours, but you're working 24/7. You're
Mm.
constantly working on the weekends. And so there's a trade off. Comes with flexibility, comes with having to work pretty much 24/7 and being on and answering calls. And you're going, the ups and downs of entrepreneurship are crazy. It's
Mhm.
not steady
It's a
Eddie
roller
corporate
coaster.
America. It's a roller coaster ride. And so too many people, what I urge, entrepreneurs or, young people that I mentor to do is really understand what you're about to get into. Can, you afford and or you have the strength to deal with this roller coaster ride? Because there's turbulence and heavy turbulence. And so if you don't have the stomach to deal with something like this, maybe it's just not the right time. But so many people overlook that aspect and they just get so excited on starting something. And you look at some of these colleges and some of the courses, there's, entrepreneurship isn't a major. Entrepreneurship comes from actually being out and figuring things out and then working to identify a problem and trying to solve it. So there's too many people, I think, that, I call them entrepreneurs, right? They just want to be an entrepreneur. But if you really dig deep, well, what do you want to do? Why do you want to do it? Well, I just want to own my own thing or run my own shop. And okay, well, that's not going to last forever. Of course, if you get some capital behind you and you have some resources, you can start something. But eventually, the music's going to stop if you're not able to the marketplace that what you're doing is working. And so too many people jump into it without really thinking it through. And I that it's not that they can't be an entrepreneur. Sometimes it's just maybe this isn't the right time, and maybe it's just not the right idea.
Mike, what are the biggest challenges that you have with an entrepreneur founder and how you become that challenge?
Challenges with an entrepreneur founder, we try to make sure that we address those challenges up front before we invest, and use every investment to learn, okay, well, what do we potentially miss, and what are the characteristics of the founder that we like and that we don't like. And really, it involves having deep conversations with them up front, especially if you're making a meaningful investment, whether you're going to be on their advisory board or on their board of directors. But what I don't like, I guess one of the characteristics that I do like is when founders are willing to ask for help. To me, I love that. It's a sign of strength, not weakness. It's a sign of strength
Absolutely.
when you know what your strengths are and what your weaknesses are, but it's a sign of strength where you have full command of your business, where you know areas that you need help in, and you're going to your investors and your advisors to ask for help. I mean, that's why we're here.
That's a good sign of a great entrepreneur.
And so I don't view that as a negative. I view it as a positive.
Absolutely.
But some entrepreneurs can actually view that as a negative. Because they're scared to ask for help.
Yeah, the worst thing that you can have is this entrepreneur with this ego that they think they know everything,
Right.
And they have all the solutions. And I would say, the biggest failure that we have out there in founders is that ego goes into the way that, because exactly you said, it's so low barrier to entry to create the tech product. But now they come in and they thinking that they're gonna be the next next Steve Jobs, the next Elon Musk, the next. So they're thinking that because they create something innovative, they're gonna be the next Mark Zuckerberg.
Yes.
They could create something innovative. They can even have a patent. They can have, but it's a way. This is the exception, and I think that's a story that everybody hear, and I think that in my experience, there are people that they are wired from 0 to 1. There are people that are very good going from 0 to 1 million. There are other people that they are very, very good going from 1 million to 10 million. There are other people that are really, really good going for 100 from 10 million to 100 million. There are people that are interviewing this podcast that they are good making from 100 million to 1 billion. That's what they do. That's what they specialize. What they have done all their life. That's the thing. So you give them and start talk to these people. They don't know what to do with that thing.
Right.
You
And
need
the
to
other
give them
thing
something
is,
from 100 million, and they can take it to 1 billion. This is the part that they know how to do. So, and I think that this is how it works. Like, for example, you have exited, right? Several times. So it's good to know when is your time to exit. That's a great thing, because sometimes some tech entrepreneur can hold onto the product again, thinking that it's gonna be the next Google, the next Facebook, whatever, and they don't know that as soon as you start to get a market share, and one of the big competitors go close to you, you have two choices. You either join with these people, or like that, they can develop something similar and get you out of the question, and you end up with zero. You don't even know what happened, because they can do it so fast that you can you can get out of the picture really, really quickly. And this is the reality, Mike. This is what we see again and again. But we always follow these stories about these first-time founders like Elon Musk, like Mark Zuckerberg, and this is the role models that tech entrepreneurs have, which I think that the reality really doesn't really work like this, right?
That's right.
You need to,
and to finish answering your question, one of the things I don't like is lack of communication. And so what we've noticed, we try to ensure that we're going to receive consistent communication from these founders. And we've seen instances where everyone's highly communicative. Once they receive their funding for a certain round, not just us, but a whole pool of investors, the communication falls off a cliff. And that's a really bad sign, because attitudes to us, that means that their attitudes changed, got what they wanted, their capital, but consistent communication is key. it's something that is just prevalent in all great founders. They're so appreciative of their investor base. They're communicating consistently. They take great pride in their accomplishments. I mean, that's very important for us running a VC fund. Look, there's periods of time where you're extremely busy. Like this first quarter, we were on the road in a bunch of cohorts, but we're still communicative back to our LP and investor base, letting them know we're busy. Here's going to be updates. And so communication is key. And that's the hallmark of a great entrepreneur, that they're updating everyone in terms of what's going on with their business. But to answer your question, that is something is a huge issue for us, and it's that we work on when we make investments to ensure that we're investing
Absolutely.
with an entrepreneur that prides themselves on strong
Probably,
communication.
probably nobody talks about, but probably the common thing that that Bezos, Elon Musk, Steve Jobs, all these big tech entrepreneurs have in common. The only thing is that they always ask for help. Otherwise, there is no way that they can reach where they reach. They have something very profound in them, and is that they don't have ego.
Right.
They always want to learn, and they always ask for
Right.
help,
And
and they always learning from everybody else around them,
that's right.
and that's why they're successful. But
And
nobody talks about
entrepreneurs
it.
change. And so, but it's
And
for
the
us as
ability to change,
investors.
exactly, the ability and the ability to unlearn, Mike. Because in order for you to, when you go from 0 to 1 million, right? What people don't know is that when you're actually, as soon as you write this 1 million, you have to unlearn everything you know,
That's
and you
right.
need to learn how to go from 1 million to 10 million. But then when you reach to 10 million, you have to unlearn everything, 10 million to 100 million. And so is the humbleness
Yeah.
of the founder, is
Right.
the ability to ask for help, is the ability to understand that they actually don't know,
That's right.
and they need people that help them. And every time that you bring, and this is what the investor is, this is what a VC is. VC
Well,
is not only to
also,
give you money. A good VC is
right.
that partner that when you say, please teach me, I want to learn, the VC is someone that can be by your side and tell you, look, this is how it's doing, please do it like this is my own experience. So this is what a VC is your someone that you can learn from, and that is only not only giving you money, but it's gonna be your next mentor. It's gonna be your coach, in order for you to reach this.
That's right.
It's not someone that, hey, give me like, for example, yeah, I a lot in tech entrepreneurs. Okay, I'm gonna ask for money, but these VCs, they're not gonna control my company, and they're not gonna tell me what to do. And this is really a really wrong approach, but this is what you hear a lot in
Right.
the tech space. No, no, no. They want to give me the money, but I don't want them to control and to tell me what to do. And I'm like, you don't want them to tell you what to do? Do you think you do you think you know what to do? So it's that ego, is that mentality. I know everything, and the big deal here. What actually really doesn't, if you really want to
That's
grow
right.
a company. We all been, look, don't get me wrong, yeah, because that's the main reason why we are entrepreneurs in the first place, because we think that we can do better. Yeah. So
That's right.
all entrepreneurs, we have that. Yeah, we have it. The
And
issue is, and I'm speaking of my own experience, when you realize that you have to let that go. Otherwise, you're not going anywhere. Yeah, because when I started my first business, I thought that I was a big deal. I was making million in my property business, and I thought that I was a big deal, and I know everything, and everybody need to listen to Harry, and Harry is the big boss and whatever. Then I opened a restaurant, lost 200,000, and I realized that I didn't know anything about business, and I was nobody, no one. And I
that's
had
right.
to drop that ego and start to ask for help and start to learn from other people in order to grow. So being there, done it. I don't think that entrepreneur come. No, I don't have ego. I doubt. because
That's right.
otherwise you don't open a business. But so, Mike, let me ask this question to you: when was the moment that you find out that you have to drop your ego? Okay, you started your restaurant at your 3 restaurants at the beginning, and you thought that you knew everything. You start to tell everybody what to do and everything. But when in your process as an entrepreneur, you realize that, oh, this ego, I had to let this go. This is not good. Let
Well,
me
I
start to
was
learn from
fortunate.
everybody.
Yeah, I was fortunate because I really never had an ego because I was
Oh,
entering a
wow.
space that I didn't really have much
Very
experience
lucky.
in. And so I think
You always
you
wanted to
tend,
learn, right?
yeah. And so I needed to learn. I had to hire consultants and I had a good idea. I knew how to execute it, but I never operated in this space. And so by virtue of that, it, I was smart enough to ask for help because I needed some people to help me in certain areas that I didn't have experience in. And so I was very fortunate in that aspect. And that taught me a lot because had I not asked for help or brought these people in to assist me, I would have made some major mistakes. And I look
Absolutely.
back at some of the decisions that I thought were right and people I brought in to help told me were wrong. And I look back and say, if I would have made those decisions, things would have looked a lot differently today. So I was very fortunate in that aspect. I think, but that was a unique situation. Too many people that are going into a space that know very well think they know everything, and then that they tend to have more of a view of I don't really need to ask for help, and so that's where people can get in trouble. And but I think just back to what you said before, as VCs and investors, it's also our job when you see these things to potentially speak up. I mean, too many times we see these things happening and know that this could be trouble and, you know, the wrong things are unfolding. And so we're not shy to speak up and we'll do it for the right reasons. And I think that's very important. But, again, my situation was a little bit unique, but most people realize that they should have asked for help when it's too late. And that's what I was sort of alluding
Mm-hmm.
to earlier, is
Agree.
that it's too late, things can't be recovered, and they look back and said, I knew I should have asked for help, but my mindset at the time was I don't need any help. I'm going to figure this out myself. And so that type of circumstance happens far too often.
Mike, so if someone is in love with our conversation and they want to learn more from you, how can people find you? How this process work?
They can find me on LinkedIn. So they can look me up, Mike Schatzman, or they can visit our website at ventureforwardcapital.com. All my information is listed on our website.
Thank you so much, Mike, for this broadcast and for all of you following the Unstoppable podcast. See you in our next episode. How brave entrepreneur like Mike break that wall and achieve the first million. Bye for now.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Follow us for more interviews with world's most influential, audacious entrepreneurs that overcame challenges and adversity, providing you with the blueprint of how they sold their first million so you can grow your business exponentially.